Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am so excited to have you here today because what we're going to talk about is game-changing for your English journey. Now I know, grammar doesn't always get the love it deserves. It can sound boring or complicated, but trust me, after today you will never look at grammar the same way again. I promise you. This is going to be fun, interesting, and super practical. So stick with me. Let me start by telling you this. Grammar is the foundation of any language. Think of it like the skeleton of your body. Without it, everything else, your vocabulary, your speaking, even your confidence, won't stand strong. Grammar holds everything together, and in this lesson, I'm going to show you exactly how to improve it in a way that's easy, enjoyable, and, yes, you guessed it, effective. Importance of grammar. Now, some of you might be thinking, I know grammar's important, but is it really that big of a deal? Let me tell you, it absolutely is. Imagine you're having a conversation and you say, "She don't like pizza." What happens? People might understand what you're saying, but you're not coming across as fluent, right? Or worse, it might make people think you don't know English well. Grammar helps you sound professional, confident, and clear. It's the difference between "I have a dream" and "I has a dream." Sure, both might be understood, but only one will make you sound like a true English speaker. And I want you to be that person. You deserve it. But here's the thing. You don't need to be perfect. Grammar is about progress, not perfection. It's about communicating clearly so people understand you, and that's something you can absolutely master. What is grammar? Okay, so what exactly is grammar? Simply put, grammar is the system of rules that structure a language. It's the way we organize words, sentences, and punctuation so that everything makes sense. Think of grammar as the rules of a game. Without rules, the game would be chaotic, right? Imagine playing soccer with no boundaries, no goals, or even no rules for how the ball should move. Things would get messy. Grammar is what keeps your game of English from falling apart. It's why we know when to say, "I am going to the store," and not, "I going to store." It's why we say, "She has been reading," instead of "she been reading." These little rules might seem small, but they add up to big results in the long run. How do you learn grammar? Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds important, but how do I actually learn grammar without falling asleep? Trust me, I've got you covered. First, start with what you already know. Look at your English in daily life, whether you're watching TV shows, listening to music, or even reading posts on social media. Pay attention to how grammar is used in real situations. For example, have you ever noticed how people speak in different tenses? In a movie, you might hear someone say, "I was walking to the store yesterday." Why? Because they're talking about something that happened in the past, so they need the past tense. Easy, right? Just observe the world around you and learn from what you hear. Next, make it a part of your routine. Start small. Pick one grammar rule to focus on each day. Maybe today you focus on how to use have and has correctly. Or you could look at how to form questions with do and does. Practice them throughout the day, and I promise, over time, you'll start to sound more and more natural. And you won't even realize it. Here's an interesting tip. Try to speak in English every chance you get. I don't care if you're in the shower, on the bus, or just walking around your house. Say things out loud. Even if you're just talking to yourself, it's like training your brain to think in English. Imagine you're explaining to someone how to use the past tense. I played tennis yesterday. Or, she studied all night. You're practicing, you're learning, and you're having fun all at the same time. Let me give you a funny example. I'm sure you've all heard someone say, I am loving it, right? Like McDonald's uses this in their ads. But here's the thing. Technically, that's incorrect. We don't usually say, I am loving it, because we're talking about something that's happening now. You should say, I love it, simple, right? So every time you hear, I am loving it, just think, that's a grammar mistake and I'm smarter for knowing the right way. And guess what? As you keep learning grammar and noticing these things, you'll start to feel like a grammar detective. You'll start spotting errors in everyday language, and it will feel great. All right. Now that you've seen why grammar is so important and you're already starting to think about how it shapes your English, it's time to dive in deep. But don't worry. We're not going to bore you with pages of rules and exceptions. Nope. Instead, I'm going to share with you some powerful tricks, little strategies that will make grammar feel like a walk in the park. Are you ready for this? Let's get started. Trick 1. Start with simple sentences. Let's be real. Grammar can seem scary when you look at all those complicated sentences in textbooks. But here's the secret. Keep it simple. If you can master simple sentences, you're halfway there. Start with small sentences like, I eat lunch, or she goes to school. Why? Because the simple present tense like eat, go, study, and work is the foundation of almost everything in English. Once you've got that, you can add details and build from there. For example, let's take I eat lunch and add some flavor. I eat lunch every day. Great. We've added the frequency adverb every day. Now let's make it even better. I always eat lunch with my friends at school. Look how simple that is. It's not overwhelming, and it uses grammar you already know, but now it's richer and more interesting. This is the key to learning grammar. Start simple and gradually build up. Trick 2. Use grammar in real conversation. Okay, now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The best way to improve your grammar is by speaking English regularly. No, really. You can read grammar books all day, but you won't truly understand it until you actually use it in real life. You need to practice. So, what's the trick here? Simple. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are your best friends. Let's say you're practicing the past tense. Instead of saying, I went to the park yesterday, you might say, I goed to the park yesterday. It's a mistake, but now you know where to fix it. That's progress. Here's another example to help you understand. Imagine you're talking to a friend, and you say, I will eat lunch tomorrow. But your friend corrects you, no, you should say, I'm going to eat lunch tomorrow. At that moment, you've learned not only the difference, but also that you'll sound more natural when you use going to instead of will. So make mistakes, learn, and laugh about it. That's how you'll improve fast. Trick 3. Use flashcards for tenses. Let's talk about tenses for a moment. I know, ugh, tenses. But here's something that will make tenses so much easier. Flashcards. Yes, they work like magic. You know what you do with them, right? You put a verb on one side and its tense on the other. For example, on one side, write eat, and on the other side, write its 3 forms. Eat, ate, eaten. Then, try to make sentences using all 3. I eat lunch every day. I ate pizza yesterday. I have eaten pasta before. These flashcards help you see tenses in action and turn something complicated into something super simple and fun. Trick 4. Watch TV shows and movies for grammar practice. Who said learning grammar has to be boring? Here's another trick. Watch movies and TV shows in English. And guess what? You don't even need subtitles. Pick a show you love, whether it's a drama, a comedy, or even reality TV. Watch it, pay attention to how the actors speak, and focus on the grammar. For example, if you're watching a show where someone says, I've been working all day, try to repeat the sentence. Say it out loud. Why? Because now you're practicing the present perfect tense without even thinking about it. You're learning naturally, and it feels like you're just enjoying a good show. This trick works because it helps you learn grammar in context, not just as dry rules on paper. Here's a classic example from a show. I've never been to Paris. Notice how they use the present perfect to talk about life experience. Now try saying, I have never been to Paris, and see how it feels to use that grammar. Trick 5. Learn grammar with music. Here's a fun one. Music. Yes, songs are a great way to learn grammar in a natural, fun way. Pick a song in English and listen carefully. Pay attention to how they use tenses, contractions, or even future plans. I bet you didn't think you could learn grammar from listening to music, right? But it works. For example, listen to the song I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. You'll hear a ton of examples of the present progressive tense. I'm yours, I'm waiting for you. Sing along, and you'll be practicing grammar without even realizing it. Try it out with your favorite songs and see how much easier grammar can become. Trick 6. Grammar journals, your personal grammar guide. All right, here's another genius tip. Keep a grammar journal. Every time you come across a new grammar rule or something that confuses you, write it down. Make it your own personal grammar book. You can even draw pictures or write examples of how to use the rule in real life. For example, if you're struggling with when to use few versus a few, write it down. Few means not many, and a few means a small number, but enough. Write it in your journal. Make sentences with both. I have few friends versus I have a few friends. See how the meaning changes? Now you've got it written down and can always refer to it. Trick 7. Be patient and celebrate small wins. Finally, my biggest piece of advice, be patient. Learning grammar takes time, but remember, you are improving every single day. Every time you notice a grammar mistake and fix it, you've learned something new. Every time you understand a rule better, you've made progress. So, celebrate the small wins. Maybe you're mastering prepositions today, or you finally get how to use isn't, verse 4. That's amazing. Don't wait until you're perfect. Start celebrating your learning process now. So let's talk about something that can help you a lot when learning grammar: chunking. I know it sounds like something complicated, but trust me, it's not. Think of it like breaking down a big, tough puzzle into smaller, more manageable pieces. Imagine you're learning about articles, those little words we use in front of nouns, like a, an, and the. Instead of memorizing a huge list of rules, just break them down into chunks. A and an are used for things that are not specific, like saying, I want a book, or I need an apple. But the is for something specific, something you and the person you're talking to both know about. So instead of worrying about all the rules at once, just focus on the chunk for each article and practice with real-life examples. It's way easier that way, and before long, you won't even have to think twice about using them. Another fun thing you can try is sentence patterns. English has some basic building blocks, like a Lego set. And once you know these patterns, you can make all kinds of sentences. For example, let's say you start with something simple like, she reads books. That's a very basic sentence, right? But you can do so much more with it by changing the structure. She reads books quickly. She reads books at night. You can even switch things around, like, at night, she reads books. It's like a secret trick to make your sentences more interesting without getting lost in complex grammar rules. Have you ever thought about turning grammar into a game? I know it sounds a bit crazy, but trust me, grammar games are awesome. Let me explain. Imagine you're playing a game where you have to fill in the blanks of sentences. For example, he bought was to the store. And your job is to figure out what verb fits in there. It could be goes or went, depending on the tense. Or how about a bingo game, but with grammar rules? Each square has a grammar concept, and when you use that rule in a sentence, you get to mark it off. It's so much fun, and it keeps you actively learning. It turns studying into something exciting, and you'll be surprised at how quickly you start using the grammar rules naturally. Now, one thing that really helps you internalize grammar is to listen to native speakers and mimic them. It's like learning a dance by watching someone who already knows the moves. When you listen to how native speakers talk, pay attention to their grammar without thinking too hard about it. You'll hear them using the present continuous like, I'm watching TV. Or maybe you'll hear them say, she's been to Paris. These are real-world examples of grammar in action. Try mimicking them, repeating their sentences out loud. This will help you not only with pronunciation, but also with feeling comfortable using grammar without having to think about it too much. Before you know it, you'll be saying the same thing in your own conversations. And if you're someone who loves visual learning, here's a trick that's game-changing. You can create a grammar map. Think of it as a treasure map, but instead of finding gold, you're finding all the grammar rules that connect with each other. You can draw a simple chart with arrows to show how different tenses link up. For example, how the present simple tense connects to the present continuous for describing habits or actions happening now, or how the past simple connects to the past perfect for talking about actions that happened before something else. This map will be your grammar GPS, guiding you to the right grammar point whenever you need it. The best part? It makes everything clearer and more organized in your mind. Another trick is to color code your grammar. I know it sounds a bit playful, but it works wonders. You could take a sentence and color the subject in blue, the verb in green, and the object in yellow. This way, you can see how sentences are built. It's like a visual grammar lesson that helps you understand sentence structure more intuitively. You might even try writing out sentences with a timeline for tenses. For example, draw a line for past, present, and future, and then place the sentences on the timeline to see when they belong. Visuals like these will make grammar rules stick in your mind much faster. Speaking of learning fast, another trick is to focus on mastering one rule at a time. I know we all want to learn everything at once, but it's better to slow down and nail one rule before moving on. For instance, if you're learning the present perfect tense, just concentrate on that one until you feel super comfortable using it. Practice with sentences like, I have eaten lunch, or she has visited London. Don't worry about the next tense yet. Master one, and everything else will be so much easier. And here's a trick that works like magic. Read, read, and read. But don't just read for fun. Read with grammar in mind. Read books, articles, or even social media posts, and pay attention to how sentences are formed. Notice how grammar rules pop up naturally in these sentences. You'll start recognizing patterns without even thinking about it, and the more you read, the more your brain will start to automatically use the right grammar when you speak or write. It's like planting seeds. Eventually, they'll grow into beautiful grammar flowers. Finally, remember that learning grammar isn't about memorizing rules. It's about using the rules in real situations. Think of grammar like the tool that helps you express yourself. The more you use it, the better you'll get at it. So, keep practicing, keep playing those grammar games, and keep reading and listening to native speakers. Every time you make a mistake, it's not a failure. It's progress. You're learning and getting better each time. Now, how awesome is that? By applying these simple, fun tricks, you'll feel confident in your grammar. And you'll see that learning grammar can be just as exciting as watching your favorite show or playing your favorite game. Just keep practicing, keep experimenting, and before you know it, grammar will be second nature. The final stretch of this grammar journey. We're going to take a deep dive into grammar concepts and tricks that will empower you to become a master. First of all, let's talk about prepositions, those little words that seem so simple but can trip us up. Things like in, on, at, by, and with. To most people, prepositions seem like tiny, unimportant words, but they actually make a huge difference in how we communicate. You might wonder, how do I even remember these things? Well, here's the trick. Associate them with specific situations. For example, you sit on a chair, but you sit in a car. You live in a city, but you live on a street. When you connect these prepositions to real-life examples, you start to get a sense of how they work naturally. The key is context, understanding the situation in which the preposition is used. This is what will make them feel less like rules and more like part of how you naturally think. Next, let's talk about one of the most powerful and sometimes overlooked aspects of grammar, the passive voice. It's like a secret tool that can change how you communicate. Passive voice takes the focus off the doer of the action and puts it on the action itself. For example, instead of saying, "The teacher explained the lesson," in passive voice, you say, "The lesson was explained by the teacher." This is especially useful when you want to emphasize the action rather than the person performing it, which can be very helpful in both professional and creative writing. It can sound more formal and objective. The trick to getting passive voice right is focus on the object and use the right form of the verb to be. For example, is, was, or will be, along with the past participle of the main verb. With practice, you'll begin to use it naturally, and it will add a sophisticated touch to your writing and speaking. Another thing that will make a huge difference is learning how to combine sentences effectively. Combining sentences not only makes your writing more fluid, but also gives you more flexibility to express complex ideas. Instead of saying, "I like reading books," "I also like watching movies." Try combining these two sentences. "I like reading books and watching movies." Or if you want to add more information, you can say, "I like reading books, and I also enjoy watching movies, especially on weekends." By linking ideas together, you avoid sounding repetitive, and your sentences flow more smoothly. You can practice this with different conjunctions like and, but, because, and although. The key here is to keep your sentences connected but avoid overcomplicating them. Simple doesn't mean weak, it means effective. As we move forward, let's dive into conditionals, a powerful and fascinating part of grammar. Now, conditionals are all about possibilities, what-if situations. The first conditional is simple. If I study, I will pass the exam. You're talking about a real possibility in the future. The second conditional is for something a bit more unrealistic. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world. And the third conditional is used for something that didn't happen, but could have in the past. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. When you get the hang of these, they'll unlock all kinds of ways to express hypotheses, dreams, and regrets. The beauty of conditionals is that they allow you to speak about so many aspects of life. Whether you're imagining a future situation or looking back at a past mistake, conditionals give you the perfect grammar tool to say what you want. We can't forget about reported speech. This is when you talk about what someone else said. Instead of quoting directly, you transform their words into your own. For example, if someone says, "I'm going to the store," you would report it as, "She said she was going to the store." The trick to mastering reported speech is to pay attention to shifting tenses. In reported speech, you often move the verb tense back one step. Present becomes past, past becomes past perfect, and so on. It can sound tricky at first, but with practice, you'll start getting a feel for it. Think of it like telling a story. When you tell someone about something that happened earlier, you need to shift the timeline so it makes sense. If you practice with different sentences, you'll see how easy it becomes to report speech naturally. But now, let's dive deeper into adjective order. You may not realize it, but in English, when you put more than one adjective before a noun, they follow a specific order. It's like a secret code. For example, I saw a beautiful old wooden chair. Notice how beautiful comes first, then old, and finally wooden. The order is important and follows this pattern: opinion plus size plus age plus shape plus color plus proper adjective plus material. It's the magic formula that makes your sentences sound natural and clear. Once you get this order in your head, your descriptions will start to flow much better. Now, let's talk about consistency. And this is where a lot of people slip up. If you start a sentence in one tense, you need to stay in that tense unless you're doing it on purpose. For example, yesterday I was walking in the park and I see my friend sounds odd because you switched tenses. Instead, it should be, yesterday I was walking in the park and I saw my friend. This is all about being consistent in how you express your thoughts, and it's a very important aspect of fluency. The more consistent you are, the more natural your speech and writing will sound. Here's a final tip for grammar success: practice by teaching others. It's one of the best ways to learn anything, especially grammar. Try teaching a friend or even talking about grammar rules to an imaginary student. When you can explain a concept clearly, it means you understand it deeply. And don't just read about grammar, use it. Write short stories, speak to your friends in English, or even keep a journal. The more you use grammar in real-life situations, the stronger your understanding will become. But here's the thing: don't rush. Remember that learning grammar is a journey, not a destination. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are a necessary part of the learning process. Every time you make a mistake, you are learning. Think of each mistake as a lesson that brings you one step closer to mastering grammar. And here's a secret: even native speakers make mistakes. So don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate every bit of progress you make, no matter how small. Keep practicing, keep making those mistakes, and keep improving. The most important thing I want to tell you right now is this: you are capable. You have the ability to learn and use grammar with confidence, and you will get better every day. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. As you continue on your journey, you'll find that grammar becomes second nature, and you won't even have to think about it as much. You'll be able to speak, write, and understand English with ease. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Thousands of learners are out there with the same goals and dreams. They've faced the same challenges, made the same mistakes, and yet they've become fluent. So, keep going, keep learning, keep practicing, and never give up. Your dream of mastering English grammar is absolutely within your reach. Keep pushing forward, and soon enough, grammar will no longer be something you just understand. It will be something you live.